Good morning, Slotheads.
What
It's
is
actually not morning for us. It is morning for you if you're watching this live on the premiere. Um, but Joe and I are both occupied while you were hopefully watching this live. So we decided to do a pre recorded episode because
we're
instead of moving around our schedule all over the place and trying to bounce around and figure it out, we were like, let's just keep the every 2 weeks. And this is how we'll do it going forward. So we're here. It's technically Thursday afternoon for us, but it's Saturday morning cartoons for you guys, which is why you'll see us drinking beverages that aren't coffee today.
oh,
Haven't started happy hour yet, but yeah, if we're drinking like sodas and that sort of thing, that might be why, because it's not actually Saturday morning. Um, but yeah, we wanted to get an episode out, so it is a premiere, so you can still comment live as you're watching. We won't be able to be there because we won't won't be available. But yeah, we'll be sure to get back to you and comment and reply to you guys as best we can. So
I'll
feel
try.
free to talk amongst yourselves.
I'll try to log on. Maybe a little, maybe like by 9:30, because I have to be somewhere at 7 in the morning. So hopefully by 9, maybe if there's like a break or something. So an appointment I could not get out of. Not what I want to, but it's just something that had to be done. But just to clarify, this is not what we're doing moving forward. This is what we're doing moving forward if we can't make the second. So just let's be clear on that.
If we both can't make it to the scheduled time, this is what we're gonna do.
At least try.
Instead of bouncing around the schedule like we have in the past, or we're going to do our best to do this. Who knows? We'll
All
see
right.
how it works.
So let's look at the comments. Hi, Harry.
Yeah, nobody's here. Weird. Yeah. Hi, usual suspects. Dan, Raul, MB Auto Detail.
Oh yeah.
Thanks for joining us, guys. No, we're
Um,
just kidding. We can't really see you, but we're hoping you're all joined us. Yeah, Joe's got to do some not so fun stuff. I think training or something, and I am going to be up in the mountains in California near Tahoe for a work event. So hopefully I'll be like at this time in the morning when you guys are watching this, I'll be like waking up, looking at a mountain, drinking coffee, getting ready to go climb a peak. Should be pretty fun. And then I got a trade show all week next week. So back on the road for me. I got 3 weeks down, 3 weeks to go. So I'll be back on regular video schedules coming up in probably like mid June.
it's
But
fun. It's
no time for it.
time off in the summer.
Yeah. There's things to do, distractions. We've all been talking about it, been talking about it on everybody's live stream. Everybody's videos, comments are filled with that sort of thing that as soon as it gets a little warm in the northern hemisphere, there's 1.5 million other things to do other than sit in your basement or your shed or whatever it is that your soccer track's at.
It's
So
just so short, especially for us up here in the cold north. Like 3 months of people are like, oh, it's hot. I'm like, stop complaining that it's hot. Enjoy that it's hot, right? Like, come on.
yeah,
But
you'll regret it in a couple months when you don't want to go outside for weeks. Yeah, yeah.
that's it. Alrighty.
Well,
So
cool. So yeah, one thing we've been talking about, off screen, off the show is how we run races, and sort of how they function and how we manage call buttons and stopping the race and crashes and that sort of thing. And so we talked about it a lot last week, just sort of like in conversations, phone calls, Discord chats, all that stuff. And so we're like, that's a good topic to share with everybody because I'm sure every single person watching this has a ton of different opinions and ways they do it, and every time I hear how somebody else does it, it's like, oh yeah, you know what? I should implement part of that or some of that. So,
mhm.
so Joe, how do you guys run your races? We've seen some of them live, but I don't always, follow the like actual procedure to how you guys run races.
At the moment, I'm pretty much, you know, uh, judge, lawyer, executioner. I guess at that point, because I'm the one. My last live I did with Jen, which was pretty successful. Okay, it wasn't successful because I messed up EV Mux and how to figure out how to do the timed live thing, and I ended up having 3 lives going at the same time, and I had to like delete everything. And I appreciate everyone who jumped on the live that I got to move you around twice. I'm sorry that won't happen again. At least I hope. Um, but successful in the fact that EVMux worked and the angles were decent until I think no, my cameras were on. They didn't die. It was the first night that my cameras died. I was in the middle of my first live streaming, and the cameras slowly started losing power, and just like, oh, I lost that camera, lost that angle. But yeah, that's it. I'm doing my own marshaling, um, with whether it's just me and Jen or me and the fam, up to 4 people. And the rule is that we all yell off or off, and then everyone's supposed to let go. That doesn't always happen, and I can catch in the corner of my eye that my daughter's like advancing just a little bit, or someone's like, "Oh, I didn't hear you, I didn't hear you," and you manage to just make that extra corner. So,
Yeah, it
and then
always happens like that, right?
I mean, I guess that's part of the game, but at the same time, like oh, I crashed here, yeah, but you slid down the ramp, so technically you start here, and then the argument starts. And I've been wanting to implement the control app, the Smart Race Connect.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, but after looking at it, it's a bit of a hassle, I think, to go down and press the screen because there's not a generalized stop area on the app. Unfortunately, it's big enough, but I might try that just with Jen and I to be like, you have to press the button, and then I'm sure there's going to be some like touchscreen issues or whatnot. I'm kind of preempting that might be an issue. And then there's, I might just think about making actual call buttons for the Carrera track. And a guy online, I'm sure there's have been others, but I stumbled upon Tom. I want to say Snyder, but it's not Tom Sidner. I apologize if I got the name wrong. I found this channel, and he made these call buttons fairly cheap with 2 solders to the machine. And I think I'm going to attempt that. I think I'll try it.
Yeah.
Screw them down because you just want to slam down and have something that's decent. My table's strong enough for it. I know that. And I looked at my new track, and I think I can. I have 4 strategic places where I can put it, so it should be decent enough. I don't know. Like, is it because of that? Is that why it kind of really sucks that I have to race and look at everyone, and someone's
Yeah.
off, and then I gotta press the button, and it's like then my car, like, I don't get that advantage because now I gotta focus, and half the time I can hear a car go off, so I'm usually calling off before while I'm racing, so it's like I'd like to just be able to just race and like not be marshaled
Yeah.
versus always being marshaled, right? So I mean, how I don't know. Those are my 2 options, right? Either I try to
But
implement the Connect app with everybody, or I get call buttons. How do you do it?
there's a couple of things with the Connect app that I like. If you have the phone down in front of you as like whatever they call it, race director, the
Yeah.
button's bigger. The stop button is bigger on there. But if you have it as like the race driver screen, like
Mhm.
if all the people on the around the track had the race driver screen, the stop button is tiny. And I've mentioned on their Discord, and I put it in their like requests, is to switch that, to make that screen, that like driver race screen that you get with the Connect app and subscribe and all that stuff, to make it similar to the actual race screen in on the main app, where you can have widgets. And
Mhm.
so you could make a much bigger button for it. You could remove the tires, you could remove the weather, you could remove the damage, all those like little indicators on there. So then it's just like, all I want on there is like laps remaining or time remaining, depending on how you're racing, fuel gauge, and then a big old button to stop the race. And that's all I would need on there. But you're right. I mean, it's not super easy to reach down, and there's no like tactile feel. So like building a physical button, like you can do that without even looking at it.
Yeah.
And that's how on the HO track, it's there's physical buttons. They're small, but they're on the little driver station, and it's really easy. Like to either keep your hand on it while you're racing, or it's just you reach down and smack it,
Yeah, well,
and
that's it.
it
I mean,
stops the
most
race.
people are going to be using the wireless Carreras, so it's like these 2 buttons, and you just keep your hand on the ready, Pat, answer. Like
Yeah.
it's done, right? I mean, I'm thinking that's probably the way I'm going to go about doing it. It just seems more. It also, I don't know. I kind of like that style. Kind of one less thing to worry about. Okay, everyone connect, 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 connect. Okay,
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
And then it's like it's ready to go, and it's more arcadey, right? It's an arcade feel, and that's what at the end of the day, like regardless of scenery or whatnot, that's the whole thing about Carrera. It's like a 3D arcade live in front of you where you get to touch
Right.
and feel, and it's like. So I think I almost like that aspect. I think I want to maybe go a little further and see what else I can do. Maybe with your help, add some lights to it, or I don't know. We'll see. But
Yeah, we've talked about that. There's all if you can hack the CU, there's all kinds of stuff that we could do. It's just figuring out whether it's worth it to hack the CU and because with those physical buttons, you're basically just like putting extra buttons in line of the start stop button, right? That's how
yeah,
it
exactly, it's the
works.
same
Yeah.
button. It's four. There's how Tom explains it. There's four solder points, and you just got to figure out negative, positive, or just on and off. And then I believe the two right. And as long as it's you choose, okay, so let's say red for the top one, the red has to be connected in the same position down the line of your buttons. So let's say you
Right.
choose positive, and then the other one you choose, as long as that's okay. The only thing I asked the question about, and maybe I missed it in the video because I went back and I couldn't really see it, but I don't know how he did it. He had like a connector, and then he says all the wires come out of this connector, and then they're all connected together. So like all wires are jumped on each other. So I asked, well, can I just use a hub, or is soldering better? Because that's the only, like I was the only part that I was confused. I asked him if he could show a picture of how he connected that, and I'm just so I'm
Yeah. Like a
confused.
suitcase connector or something
Yeah, exactly. So,
for like a bus line.
but he
Yeah,
just
because
showed
basically the way those switches work is they close the circuit. And so if you have one big loop going one big loop going all the way down and you have different buttons in each spot and each spot would close the circuit, then they all work the same.
Mhm.
So you can have as many buttons as you want, which is, I'm sure that's how it works. It's similar to how I set it up on the HO. The HO is for each driver, so like the Arduino knew who pressed the button because then you get a penalty. That is,
That's what you lose. You don't get the you lose that aspect of it. You would not be able to get a penalty, and you wouldn't know who called. Well, I mean, you
who
would
jammed it.
because be that
Yeah.
person. And he mentions the fact that the buttons he chose, which are still available on Amazon, are not the emergency buttons. I call them emergency buttons because they're the same ones at work with when I
Yeah.
put the press.
The emergency stops. Yeah.
Exactly. You stop it, and then you have to twist it to pull it back out.
To release it. Yeah.
So he's like, he doesn't like that, but I'm like, I mean, what does it take? But I get it. So, and they got the yellow and the red and
It
the
would
black.
prevent somebody from like jamming it twice and then it like stopping and
Oh,
restarting the race again.
oh, I didn't think about that.
But I don't know if when it's down, is the circuit stay closed is the problem because then it would think that it's just getting that button pressed over and over and over again. So I don't know how that works. But there's a guy.
Do it. No, people do it because it's a one
Yeah,
time stop because it just locks, right?
it just locks the plunger,
Yeah.
the plastic piece. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
To make absolutely sure that, like, I guess, and for safety reasons, to make absolutely sure that, like, it's not hit once and then somebody hits it again. The machine keeps rolling while the guy's stuck in the, God forbid.
Right, right, right. Yeah, while his arms jammed in there. Yeah. It was I saw. I don't think I've seen the video you were talking about, but I saw. Is it Right Out Raceway?
Yes.
He does mostly just like videos of races with he and his like three or four buddies, and he added the call buttons, and he had those emergency stop ones. I think he did a video on them. He did a real brief explanation, but
I gotta check it
I
out.
was expecting it to be like this big drawn out like process, and he basically said the same thing. He's like, "Nah, you like solder these two things, and it's good to go."
Because luckily enough, it's right there. As soon as you open up the CU, he's like,
Yeah,
look, these two right here. Just figure it out. Count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then they're in the middle. And he goes, put a little marker on them, and just figure
and
out
then you
which
know
one's
which one.
positive, negative. But even then, it doesn't matter because as long as you
Yeah,
switch you don't cross the things. It's like I'm like it's that simple. Now, if you're scared of soldering, maybe Smart Race is the way to go. Um, I my thing's already hacked because I got the box, the
oh, right. So you've
soldering.
already voided that warranty.
And then I got my backup. So, and the thing what was good about Tom is that he showed that, like, and because that was my other question too. If I mod this box anyway, does it like mess up the analog switches? Which it doesn't because it's completely different. So,
Yeah.
because he had that too, and he goes, my wire is going to look different from yours because I already have this box installed, and I'm like, perfect. This is exactly what I'm looking for. And and then you kind of understand how he did it. But again, it's and someone had commented on our video to be like, oh, you guys should try damage. And I thought about it, and I'm like, okay, well, and I started looking through the menu of Smart Race app, and you got to set the time. But the problem with that is that means I think you need to have somebody marshaling the race because if you're continuously going, and then and someone calls stop or hits the stop button because you crashed, your time has stopped as well. I mean, there might be a
Yeah.
couple extra seconds there, so maybe that's what he's talking about. Because other than that, as soon as you stop the time, because if you don't stop the time and make that person run around and find their car, then they have to put their car back on the track, and then the computer will figure out, oh well, okay, everyone did a 3 second lap and you did a 4 second lap, let's say. So that means you did damage. I'm going to assign you. The computer spins the wheel and decides to assign you damage. The problem with that is that it's like, well, I can't have people running around my track. That's just dangerous. It's not going to happen. And if
Right.
people are racing and the crash comes next to me, then I have to stop what I'm doing to fix the car. And then, that just causes a bunch of problems. It could be like, oh, am I still going? And then if I'm slow, does that mean the computer thinks, well, then Joe just crashed because he took a little
Yep.
longer, but I was helping? Like, it,
It's
it, got,
tricky.
it got tricky. So it's like, well, then what's the point? And then if I have to stop, then we're both getting damaged. So I was just like, I'm not sure about that. I have to do some more testing. So I think that's mainly, I'm assuming, I have to figure it out, but I think it's mainly more for a fast marshaled track. I mean,
Yeah, like where there's a rotation where you're part of the rotation is you being a marshal for a while on that hot corner or whatever. That's I mean, and that's when I don't do that on this track, but on the HO one, when I first started, before I had the call buttons, it was like part of the rotation is you did all four corners for each lane of the track.
okay,
Those
okay.
were the four driver stations, and then one of the rotations. Well, there's two. There's one on each end. Was a marshal. So it's like, oh yeah, these four guys are racing, and then, you know, Joe, you're over here on this corner marshaling, and Pete, you're over on that far end marshaling, and all their job is to watch the cars, and when they come off, put them back on the right color, and that's fine. But obviously, it doesn't work if you only have two people racing,
Yeah.
or if you have four people racing, or six people, and that's how many you want to race. Nobody want when you're capable of racing six at a time, and you have six or less people, everybody wants to race. Nobody wants to marshal.
Well, that's it. It's actually my issue is the space because in front of the track is not an issue. You can put two, even three people, but
Yeah.
one, I have a wall, and two, on the other end, I've only got 2 feet, and then the person who's on the back wall of the 2 feet of space, like they can't run. I can't ask someone to run, and if they do, then there's two people or one person blocking them anyways, because it's literally a 2 foot by 2 foot all the way around. So it just
Yeah, you're
ergonomically
wedged in there.
and
Yeah.
for safety wise, it's not a good idea to make people run around the
Well,
track.
yeah, and I've got plenty of room around my whole thing, but I don't want people running around the basement and tripping over the wire, like, running into the corner of the thing and trying to get their thing back on fast. Like, that's a recipe for disaster
I
for
mean, just on my
sure.
live, I slammed my love handle slammed into the knobs of the, of the closet door. I'm like, imagine
Yeah,
running. It's like and
yeah,
the nubs are like this
bound to,
tall.
bound to cause an accident. It is like, so when you the way you do it right now, when
Mhm.
you stop, you stop the race, somebody says off, you press the stop button, all cars come to a stop.
Yeah.
How do you restart it? Do you just go, hit the button, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, they go?
Yeah. So if it's a hard crash and or whatnot, and we have like an argument, then I'll reset it. If someone's hot on the trigger, if I start noticing that people are not waiting, if it's something that like we've got a good flow, like it's been a good
Hmm.
couple of rounds, I'll be like, oh okay, off, click, 3, 2, 1, go. Like let's go.
Yeah.
On go, everyone goes. Near the end of the race, like the last couple of 10 laps, I will always and I forget sometimes, but I will always do the 3, 2, 1 just to make sure everyone's on point. Like I no more like jumping the gun. If you jump the gun, it'll call and whatever. So that's how lenient I am as a marshal. Um, just because when you've got that good flow going, I'm like, oh, I don't want to do the 3, 2, 1 again. Like it's just
Yeah. Yeah.
my family doesn't learn. We don't learn, and
Well, and that's the biggest thing.
you know,
And that's what we talked about last week too, is that, like, I've heard plenty of people talk about, crash and burn, like racing, and then if you crash, you're out. Like, you're done. You don't finish that race, you're DQ'd. And like, it depends. Like, I would totally, with some of my brothers who have come over, or my dad, or my mom, my wife, like the people who have raced on my track quite a bit, like the regulars that are on, and get the hang of it. I don't have to explain how a pit stop works every time they come down and race. Like, for that, it makes sense because they know, like, okay. But like, for my buddies who come over like every 6 months, maybe is like, or every 4 months, however long it is. It's it's much more daunting and much more like, oh, they came over for a race night and we started at 9 and we're gonna go to midnight or 1 o'clock or whatever. We're gonna go super late into the night and they crash on that first lap of the first race and they're out. It's like, oh, I was like, but the other thing is that would teach them not to do it. Like, it would teach them not to, or it would either teach them not to do it or they'd be like, F this, I'm never coming back.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those tricky spots, which is why I had a similar reaction when my first race night I was gonna do the penalties. So like I had these like real cheap um, tablets. They're like $35 off-brand tablets from Walmart that I downloaded the Connect app on and had that as each driver station so they could see fuel and press the button. And when you can have Smart Race set up so when you press that button, it assigns that racer a 2-second penalty that they have to serve in the pit.
But you have to set that though.
You have to set that up.
Okay.
You have to set that up. But you can basically like on the penalties screen of your race, you can set it up to like automatically assign a penalty for or it says like what happens when driver station presses stop button. You can say nothing, or you can say add a penalty, and you can say add 2 second, 4 second, 6 second, whatever
Hmm.
penalty, and that's the one you have to serve in the pit, which is cool. But it's another one that's like if you get towards the end of the race and it's a 2 second penalty, and they're like in between, they crashed and pressed that button in between the pit and the thing. It's like, oh nope, you're just DQ'd. You didn't serve your penalty. It's like there's a little bit of
Yeah. And my thing is I can't afford. I thought about that and I was thinking about penalties and being served and being like, okay, well, no, you deliberately, crossed into someone, so you both have to go back, and then, I'm going to serve you. I threaten with penalties. I've never done it, right? I'm like, that's a penalty in 2 seconds, and move your
yeah,
car
yeah,
back. And everyone's like, oh, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm the marshal. Too bad. And then,
yeah,
but I'm like, well, I'll do that. You have to serve it, and then if you don't, then you get disqualified. But then the problem is it clogs up the
clogs up the pit
already
lane for sure.
pit lane, because we're already four racing. My
Yeah,
pit lane is only three long, two, three at a time max. Like, we're still not
yeah,
skilled enough to go in and be like, oh, okay, I got to slow down, and and then everyone complains, and they're like, oh, I didn't count my lap. I'm like, because you came in too fast. You guys aren't learning, and it happens to me too. I mean, the last race, my car flew out because the car was going too fast for the gate lane to switch. And poor Dora, man, like I have this my Marshall towel.
took her out.
Yeah, I mean, I still haven't fixed it. Took her out, put her in the ambulance, and we were just, away we go. And it was just hilarious. I was dying, but I'm like looking at the car, like, okay, did I break that car? Like, I don't care about the Marshall towel,
Yeah,
but like, it's just because I'm trying to, oh, what's going? Okay, I gotta, okay, too
yeah,
fast, pressing on the thing and trying to press, get into the. It's just impossible. It's just impossible
it's
sometimes.
tricky.
And how do
And
I
there's
do
no
that
like,
without magnets? Forget that. It's a whole other subject. How do I erase that without magnets? Like,
yeah, yeah.
that's
Well, and
another.
I know that Raul's talked about it, and several other people talk about it, where like you get three cards, like playing cards, when you arrive for the night, and you get three crashes, and you trade one in for your crash, and then when you're out of cards, if you crash, you're out, and so then it gives a little bit of leeway. You can do it even on Smart Race, where it's like your first two times you press that button, you don't get anything, but on the third one, you get the penalty, and so it gives you that warning. But yeah, it's like I haven't found a sweet spot. The closest I've come is using the safety car. And when I first put in the safety car, I was like, this is so cool. But then when I like tried to like mentally think about how I'm going to explain it to people coming over, because like when I first got it, I was like, "This is such a rad idea! Like, oh my goodness, I'm hooked. This is so cool! Like flashing lights, it's going slow, it's awesome. It goes out when I press the button. Everything about it was so cool." And then like first time I tried to implement it, I was like, "Oh God, this is like really hard to explain to new people." But
Before,
then, go
oh,
ahead.
sorry. Before you get to explaining it,
Yeah.
I just want to touch up on one thing, because I want to. This is what I want to get into. I want to get into how you use the safety car, because I'm still wrapping my head around it. Um, is there not a way that we could put the call button to a USB and plug that into the Smart Race Connect app? That way you'd have the best of both worlds. You could, because if you do the call button now, it circumvents the smart race app whatsoever. So all those penalties, you're just stopping the race and it's just done. But if you could do it, is there even a USB out there?
There's USB buttons.
Yeah,
I
so I'm
don't
saying,
know. I don't
like,
think Smart Race would like know that meant stop the
is there
race.
not a USB button that you could press and then it mimics your finger press? Is there not
I
an
don't know.
app for that?
Probably.
The light bulb that I just solved. Am I the world's greatest
That would be
detective?
cool. That would be cool. I've also seen it's on when I was searching for like alternatives to Smart Race that I could run on my computer because I was really frustrated with how slow my little tablet was running and I didn't want to clog up my phone with it. Is I was looking at I can't think of the name now, but Bruce Yingling software. It's called like it's something super simple like race management software or something like
Oh yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
And on his, he's got a feature that you can set up your controller to like if you press and hold the lane change button for long enough, it counts as the stop button, which is like that's a cool idea. But I think it only works with his software. I don't know. I'm sure somebody will correct me in the comments, but
Oh, that's something to talk to Frankenslot about.
and it's like it's basically because I think for that to work, there's an Arduino hooked into the control unit, and so it
Oh,
tricks
right.
it. But and I don't really remember, but I do remember seeing it. But then I tried the software, and I was like, this is just it's cool, but it's like it's missing. You know, like Smart Race has like all of the features, but then there's a couple things that I'm like, oh, if we could just tweak this, or I could just do this, or you know, if it had a little more customizability, that would be so
Well,
cool. And then
yeah, I'm just thinking about that little keypad I bought my folks because I had bought them like an NVIDIA smart box or whatever and downloaded a bunch of stuff on there for them. And I'm like, okay, well, when you want to type in instead of with the controller finding
yeah,
all the letters, I got them a little USB mini keyboard and then it figures it
yeah,
out. Right, it makes that noise too. So I'm like, if that can connect Bluetooth as well to my phone, and I could use that as a keyboard on your phone, which I think that's possible.
yeah,
Why couldn't we
should
get
be.
a bigger button and just click and it just does like a hard press? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you
Without
would just have to. I mean, yeah, it would if there was an app that matched up to it, that would like let you
the
pick where
programmers
on the
can get
screen it
it. Yeah,
pushed.
that's
What'd
why
you
I
say? I'm not
was
a programmer.
well, you do all the Arduino stuff, and I'm just like, I got this
Yeah,
idea. It's like you got.
ChatGPT does it for me.
That's fine. That's still
I
programming.
ask ChatGPT questions and then say, no, that's not quite right. I'm gonna try this. So yeah, I'm very, very far from a programmer, but I know how to be dangerous with the AI. I will say that.
All right, back to
I know
back to
how to
safety.
ask it the right questions,
Okay.
but yeah, safety car.
Yeah.
It's like it's been the coolest thing and the most frustrating thing I've ever added to my track. Um, I actually just got a question about it this morning, or maybe last night, from somebody watching my beginner slot car,
Uh,
beginner mistake video from almost 6 months ago now, probably more than that, 8 months
yeah.
ago, something like that. And yeah, they were asking about how you prevent it from clogging up the pit lane, and the answer is you add another pit lane, which is like issue number one. um, because pit lanes are at the very least, because obviously you don't need a whole bunch of space for it to stop in there. So I just have literally an entrance and then an exit. I don't even have a straight in there.
Mhm.
And so, but so at the very least, it's taking up two straights worth of track. So you need to have outside of your big long normal pit lane straight area that your cars are going into pit. You got to have another spot that's at least two straight that has enough room on it to have that bump out for the entrance. So that's like number one. That's a little tricky. Number two is like the buttons. The interface is not super easy to like find on the fly. But basically the way I utilize it, and it was I think Thanksgiving. My brother was here for like a week. He was staying with us, and we were racing like every night. As soon as the kiddo went to bed, we'd go downstairs, crack open a beer. We even brought a cooler down here, so we were down here like all night till like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, like 4 or 5 nights in a row, just racing all night and like testing out different speeds of cars and what are good ways to restart the race and just like trying everything we could think of. And the method that like we really liked, and partially because we both knew the track well enough that there were crashes but not like a ton, is we when you stop the race, so when you stop the race, you hit that call button. You put whoever crashed, we put the safety car, just pick it up out of its home and put it on the track right in front of whoever crashed. And so then it basically, when you restart the race, you restart you start the safety car as well. So like automatically, if the safety car's out on the
Hold on,
track, it
hold on,
wants to
hold on.
go to its home.
You're racing.
Yeah.
Take me back a sec. You're racing.
Yeah.
Someone crashes. What do? They call off, or they just hit the stop button?
We both had the race app, whatever, stop.
Okay, so that person, oh, I'm off. Okay, hit the race app. It's stopped.
Yeah.
You walk over, or whoever's closest grabs the car, puts it where it landed, or do you?
As close as you can. So you just
Got it.
reset that car wherever they crashed,
Okay.
and then you put the safety car right in front of them.
Okay.
And then when you
press the
restart,
safety car button on the CU.
well, yeah. So that's one. That's not issue number 2 I have with the safety car, is when you restart using, if you just hit, if the race is stopped, right? So
Yeah.
you've hit that call button on Smart Race or on the control unit, however you do it, doesn't matter. It does the same thing. It stops the race and
Okay.
all the lights go red. And then if you in a normal situation without a safety car, if you press that start button again, it does the countdown and then it goes,
Okay.
which is good. If you stop the race, you put the safety car out and you just do that start button and it goes, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. The safety car's in the like setting where it wants to go to its home.
Okay.
So it changes lanes. The lights aren't flashing. The top lights aren't flashing. It just changes lanes till it gets to its home and it goes in, which is fine. But sometimes that's like one turn. And so it's like pointless to even put it out. And so you have to put
Why?
it in. Why what?
Why is it pointless to go once around the track?
No, like if it's like so like it's right there at the end of my track. If somebody crashed right here, one turn ahead, and you put the safety car on there, it's going to go straight into its home, and then it's only like one turn of the safety car coming out. And
Oh,
so
okay.
instead, you have to start the race. It counts down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then it goes, and it wants to go to its home, and then you press that escape button, that ESC button, the safety car button, and then it goes into normal mode, and it just goes like a ghost car, changes randomly around until you tell it to go home. So that was one thing
You're saying it's annoying because there's a sequence to do it.
because there's a sequence, and just like you're saying, I'm usually the one pressing those buttons, and
Oh,
I'm trying to
you gotta
race,
move from your
and I'm
station. Okay.
trying
Yeah.
to not get crashed by the person behind me. I'm trying not to
Yeah,
to
you're
go
racing
in front
again.
of the safety car.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's annoying, and I've thought of some. I mean, you and I have even talked about some like ideas I had to like add an Arduino to the control unit to basically trick those buttons, so that I could press one button and it would like start the race, wait 5 seconds, and then hit the ESC button, like digitally hit the buttons. But anyway, that's another story if I can ever figure that out.
Now that we know where the solder points are, if you look at that Tom guy,
It'd be easy.
I think it would be super easy because the Arduino would just
Yeah.
be like, oh, once this is hit, put a timer. Please
Yep.
connect this connection.
It'd be super easy.
Oh,
It just
man.
needs some relays. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so the way we do it is I got to hit those buttons. That's like issue number 2. But we worked around it and got over it because the like benefit of it is just it's super cool because then once it's going and it's flashing lights and it's not going home, it's going around the track. We just let it cross the finish line twice. So sometimes that's only like a lap and a half. Sometimes it's like 2 full laps, or 3 full laps, depending on where it is.
Okay.
And so it goes and no everybody's racing. If you're in front of the safety car, you can go as fast as you want to catch up to the safety car. You just can't pass the safety car.
Okay.
So the person that crashed is stuck behind that safety car going at, whatever half speed of a normal lap because you can't pass that safety car. Safety car set at a low speed. You can pit during that time if you want. You just can't pass that safety car. So like what we would do a lot of times is if you were right in front of that safety car, you would race around, get in that pit, and then try to get out of the pit before the safety car comes around again. Just like in real racing, right? You want to get out of that pit before that safety car comes so then you can catch back up. It added a whole bunch of like a little bit of chaos, a little bit of like felt a little bit more like real racing when a crash happened. The problem is if there's a lot of crashes happening during the night, it's a lot of slow safety car laps, and it's a lot of resetting that safety car. So it has, when the two of us are racing, or I haven't tried it with my wife yet because yeah, I think that might be a bit much, and she might want to murder me if I put the safety car out. I think we actually tried it one night with her and she was like, if you want me to race again, put that safety car away. Um, just because it's a lot. Because you can't. There's no. It's not like a video game where it's like slowing your car down. It's not
It gets you out
forcing
of
you
that
to
zone.
not pass it.
It gets you out of that zone because you physically have to
Yeah.
take the car and bring it. And if you're only two and you got to walk around your track, I could just imagine mine. I could just imagine yours. Sorry,
Yeah.
and be like, okay, here it goes. That it kind of kills your.
And that
Yeah.
part's yeah, I get it. But it gave just enough chaos to it that like depending on where you are on your lap when somebody else crashes, you could get a huge benefit out of that safety car coming out. Like if you're both racing this way
Yeah.
and you're this guy and this guy crashes, that safety car's going in between you. So you get a whole lap and then you're a lap ahead of that guy that was behind you. Awesome. If the guy in front crashes and the guy right behind crashes, this guy gets a little bit screwed because he's got to go slow behind that safety car.
How do you deal with that? How do you deal with consecutive crashes? Who's the one who gets the safety car? The first or last?
Uh, like if they crashed while the safety car's out.
No, like it happens with us where I'll crash a corner. It's a weird thing, and I've heard other people say it that like, and even on the comments to be like, is there something up with the voltage of the things? Like when
Yeah.
every time I crash, my partner crashes too. Like we all crash at the same time. Like if one crashes, the other car crashes. I'm like, I just think it's a psychological thing. I don't think it's a unless there's some weird vibration
There's
happening in the track. Like, but it still happens to us. Like I'll crash in the corner. Jen will be like, "Oh, you crashed!" Oh, and then she crashes, or vice versa. And I think it's that split second of not concentrating anymore. You're just like your brain says what's going on over here, and then this finger just like either it doesn't break or it doesn't pay attention, and then you both crash at the same time. I don't know.
there's some there's some truth to it too, though, especially if you're hammered down on the throttle.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, somebody's gonna flame me for not knowing what the volts are going through that CU. But say it's a certain amount of power, flowing through the track that both cars, four cars, however many cars get to use, and they're both using them at the same time. When one goes off, that other one is getting all of that,
That's not
which is
happening.
why
That's
which
not
is
happening.
why on analog tracks like my HO, I have separate power supplies for every lane so that if you crash it, it doesn't affect anybody else. So everybody's getting their own power supply with no surges whatsoever. But yeah, in it's I don't know about 132 or 124 analog. I'm sure it's very similar, but on HO, if you have like if we were powering if you're powering two lanes
Hmm.
with one power supply and one goes off, you get a huge spike, and sometimes it just pew, just flies. And so there is some like truth to that. I have no idea how much it affects the 132 cars, but I mean there's some science behind that.
Well, I have noticed that ever since I put in the tech slot box, that there are cars that like will slow down. I have dead spots now. I've noticed dead spots in my track, and that also happened when I undid the track and started putting pieces back together. Um, before I had no issues. Before everything was sweet, I didn't notice any
Yeah.
slowdowns. Now all of a sudden, just because I took it off and put it back in, I know that there's some resistance. Plus, adding the tech slot box, a variable power supply is in my future for sure. Because and obviously taps. I mean, that's what solves that problem is putting
That'll help, yeah.
taps. And I see it. So yeah, maybe that's
There's some science to it.
yeah.
I mean, I've witnessed it on the HO track. I've never. Well, the other thing you got to think about too is your cars. You can set better lap times with two cars racing as opposed to six. If you have all six cars going at once, your top speed is lower because it's sharing when you're on the regular CU because there's a finite amount of power that can be used and it's being spread, which is why they say you got to upgrade the power or use the 124 CU to run 124 cars because they take more juice, they take more electricity. So you can run 4 of those, but if you ran 6, if I try to run 6 124s on here, you wouldn't see a noticeable difference.
Well, yeah, because you have the 132.
Right, but that's just like expanding the problem, right? It's just magnifying the problem.
So okay, so you're saying that if you put yeah, because they only recommend 4, even with the 124 power supply, they only recommend 4.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, and that's why people do the variable. But what I'm saying is like they're all sharing that same amount of available electricity. It's a finite amount that is coming through that power unit.
But
The
even at a
plug, the
variable,
transformer.
all that's doing is giving you constant voltage. So you'll right, like the variable power supply is basically your amperage. So when it's drawing that power, when everyone slams on the go and it's sucking up that power, the variable power supply is doing a better job of your CU unit of your power supply to give everybody what they need. There's
It's
less of a,
increasing the available.
yeah, there's less of a dip, not the voltage but the amperage, right? Like that's the
Right,
math
it's
behind it.
increasing that amount that they can all use.
Yeah,
It's
so
increasing
it's more the curve is more
amperage.
equal. Okay,
Right.
yeah. Hmm.
Because then when they're all running and they're all running at a speed that it's not like super draw on all the motors and all that, they're all running at a good clip. It's got a whole bunch of leftover amperage.
Which should make everything smoother. My issue right now is I'm
Yeah,
noticing dead spots, and I have this funny thing going on where I take my Carrera cars and switch them to analog when I'm in analog mode to be like, yeah, let me just run a Carrera car. They won't run. The lights go on and
yeah.
everything. I have to push them. They'll go, but then they'll stop. The lights will still work, and I'm like, is there not enough? And that's where I'm like, oh, I probably have a dead spot here. There's not enough power.
Yeah.
I need a tap, and
Well,
because
and the dead spots are like sort of unrelated. We're getting way off, but
yeah, okay,
this is how we normally chat, guys.
it's,
When you're not here in our
yeah.
live chat, this is how we normally start talking about all kinds of crazy, weird stuff. But it is, I mean, there is, yeah, I mean, there's some science to that. But to get back to the initial question that got
Yeah,
us on this tangent,
yeah.
is the car that's further in front gets the safety car in front of them, because then the other one will have to be behind it too. Nobody who's off the track should get an advantage.
Okay, so basically, yeah, the first crash, and if you crash a second time, well, then you got lucky.
So yeah, it's basically that you you have to sit behind that safety car, and it adds a lot to the race because there's random chance, and it creates it a lot more like a lot less of like a pit stop game, or a lot less of a like just hammer down and go as fast as you can, because then there's like, oh, should I pit with the safety cars out, because or should I pit for like half of my fuel tank so I can get out in front of that safety car? It just adds a whole new like fun excitement to it. But with all of that said, number 3, third issue that I have with it is when I have new people over to race and I'm explaining sometimes what slot cars are in general.
Yeah.
And then I'm explaining that they change lanes. And then I'm explaining that you have to look up at the screen to check your fuel. And then I'm explaining that you have to check your fuel, and when it gets low, you have to pull into the pit to get more fuel. And there's lane change, and there's cars, and there's crashes, and there's all these other things happening. Oh, by the way, when I put the safety car out, you can't pass it. Even though it'll physically let you pass it, you're not allowed to. That's like one step too far.
Yeah.
But it's so cool when it's working. The only issue I have with it, the main issue that's not resolvable, like the the adding the pit lane, extra pit lane. Obviously, I've fixed that on my track. My other pit is just a little bit shorter. I had to buy an extra pit lane. Not the end of the world.
Yeah.
On my new track layout that I'm considering, I have it around the bend, and it's a little bit longer, so it has more room to pull in. I'm okay with that. Like, that's easy to fix, or that's easy to manage around. The teaching new people, it's like, well, you just don't do it their first time, or you make sure that 2 people who do know how to do it show them how to do it the first go around. Whatever, we can work on that too. It's like anything, you can manage that. It's the button thing that really frustrates me. It's the having to press two buttons. Because if the race is stopped and you press that safety car button, instead of it counting down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it just goes, which isn't the end of the world. And the main reason I didn't like it that way is when I was racing with ghost cars out there. So there's only two people racing at the time, so I
Yeah,
put ghost cars out there to make traffic, and it's just a little bit more fun, a little more exciting.
yeah. Jen and I,
Um,
we liked it the few times we did it. It's pretty fun.
yeah, it just adds a reason to change lanes instead of,
Yeah,
a lot of times it's just like, I don't need to change lanes because he's in the other one, I'm good. But but the problem is when you start it, those ghost cars go immediately, and then there's like
oh yeah. Couldn't you?
crashing, and yeah, yeah,
Couldn't you put now my my the
yeah,
left
yeah.
the middle side of my brain is going. Couldn't you put the put some tape over the sensor so the safety car doesn't switch? Keep it on the it would always stay on the right lane. Make sure that you have a safety car lane and build one of those gates with the stop sign on the side of the safety car so that way no one could you know what I'm trying to say, like a car with like
Yeah,
railroad
yeah,
railroad cars
yeah,
truck the things come out of the side and just like stop.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I like that. Like,
Like a
yeah,
school bus, like build it in
yeah,
that way and then add some
yeah. I'm
lights
sure
to it
you
or
could.
something. And that way there's
I'm
no
It'd have to like fold in and out though, because if it was in the pit lane, if it was in its safety lane, it would be sticking out into the track.
yeah, yeah, that's the thing. Or even
It's
even
not like it's not that hard. It's just like, and there's certain people who will
silly.
understand that. Like people who know racing even just a little bit understand how a safety car works, right? It goes out and nobody passes it. It's it's like aunts or uncles or people who are just like over the house for something else, and I bring them down. I'm like, oh yeah, come take a look at the track. It's pretty cool. And to be honest, those are the people I shouldn't be even worried about a safety car anyway, because it doesn't matter who actually wins. It's just like, yeah, put it on free practice and just go to town.
Yeah.
But but yeah, there's a little bit of that like hesitation, and like explaining one more thing to everybody is like, that feels like, you get to like that point where I'm like, okay, now I can explain the safety car. They sort of get the hang of everything else, and I'm like, that just feels like one step too far. But I mean, I like it enough that I'm incorporating the safety car pit lane into my new layout.
Yeah. No, I think that's it's pretty novel to have that. I think that's pretty awesome. I mean, it's definitely something I want to incorporate. How well does it work with two people in your experience?
It's not as well. I mean, it depends. It evens. I think no matter what, it evens. It evens everything out, and not necessarily evens everything out, but it just makes the race. Sometimes, like, especially if two cars that, like, one is just faster, right? One car is just faster than the rest of them. Almost as soon as you start, if both cars don't crash or crash the same amount of times, it's a predetermined end of that race.
Yeah.
And
That's
so that's not, especially, and I'm talking like not just a little bit of difference. I'm talking like my fastest car versus my slowest car.
Oh
Like
no,
if
I
those,
lose to newbies when I race my Ferrari, the 488, just
right,
because everything else is just that much faster. And it's like again, I'm marshaling and whatnot, but and yeah, I'm not the best racer, I guess. I mean, that's just. But at the same time, it's like, how did I lose that race? That doesn't make sense. Like, oh
yeah,
yeah, no, the Porsche will lap me easy because
yeah,
I put them on a slower speed and I still lost because all they're doing is holding down the hammer until
yeah,
they
they
get
can just hammer down.
and that car is just naturally fat will just naturally
Yeah,
lap the Ferrari even at a faster speed because I have to control the faster the Ferrari goes, the more squirrely it gets, the more I have to control it. So I'm naturally going slower. So whatever. I know it sounds like I'm making excuses, but I get you. It's
and
that's
it just adds that one little extra thing. Like pit stops add a little bit to that,
yeah,
because you got to stop right, and you got to make sure you're timing it right to do it, and all that jazz. But it's definitely like that safety car adds just a little bit of extra, like I call it chaos to the race. Like it's one extra thing that could be like that could change the whole race. It could make that guy who's in last, if it's lucky enough and they're in front and everybody else is right behind it, they're gaining a lap, and it's awesome. And so they're getting back in the heat of it.
you. Okay, I have two questions. One,
Yeah.
how do you do it when it's like the last lap? What happens?
With I think we did it where it was like if it was less, since we make it go around 2 times, if it was less than 4 laps left, we didn't put it out.
Okay. Okay.
Which there's no real easy way to do that.
Yeah.
Because we talked about like how, well, I was mentioning to you about how I wish I could do it like NASCAR does, where it's like, if they're doing 150 laps and that safety car comes out on 149, they do the safety car till everything's clean, and then they go green, white, checkered. And so it goes green when the safety car goes into it, gets off the track, and they cross that, and then they do white for that last lap, and then checkered. But if there's a yellow flag and a safety car comes out in there, then they start that over. So 150 lap can turn into 175 if that happens enough times.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of like tennis, where you got to win by 2. So they force
Exactly.
you got to win by 3. You got to
But
no matter what.
there's no way to do that on
Oh,
on
that's
here.
another. I think that's another Discord to Smart App.
Yeah. And that's like that would be
What's it called?
super cool, but it could also make the night go on forever. But I mean, the other like sort of like side effect of the race, or of having the safety car out, is it stacks all the cars out. They all get stacked up behind that safety car almost inevitably. Like 2 laps is enough time on my track for just about everybody, with how slow it's going, for just about everybody to get lined up behind it. And then that restart is like the restart of the beginning. It's super exciting. Like, what lane do you want to pick to be in? It's just, yeah, it's much more fun, because then as you're coming up to the safety car, it's like, oh, that guy's in the left lane. I'm gonna get in the right lane. So then it's 2 of us in the safety car, and then he's gonna go in, and it's way more exciting.
Okay.
It's like a restart.
So then brings me to the second question, and perfect segue. How fast are how fast are your cars when you race normally then?
What do you mean? Like what speed?
Yeah. What speed are you on?
Like 7 or 8,
Oh, okay.
maybe 8 or 9 now, since I switched to silicones.
Nice. Okay.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean
I think I remember
it's
you
up
telling me
there.
that when you had like almost 8 guys on the track and you just turned down the speed.
Yeah, that was the first time my buddies came over. I turned it all the way down to like you cannot crash, and that's why I added those the ghost cars in, because then you have to change lanes, and that's the excitement for it. But yeah, no, I've changed it since then.
So 8 guys plus a ghost car?
No, not 8. You can't have 8 racers. You can have 6.
6 plus ghost.
Yeah,
That
I
wasn't
had
too much of
six
a drain.
racers and
That
two
wasn't
ghost
too much
cars.
of a drain at like 40%.
They were on super low speeds.
Oh, right, right. It's the
They
reverse.
were only on like 2 or 3,
Oh, okay.
because
Wow.
then there was way fewer crashes. The only times you were crashing is when the ghost car changed into you, and when you tried to pass a ghost car near a lane change, and that's what made it. It was a lot of fun, because it was like, okay, we're getting, because the first time they came over, I did not do that, and we didn't have safety cars out, and there was a crash like every lap,
Well, yeah,
and so
6
like,
cars on a track is much, I find, personally.
yeah. Well, no, I think that first one only had 4. That was before I got the extra controllers,
Okay.
but even so, it's like when
Four's
people are brand new to it,
yeah.
6
Four
is insane now.
6. Yeah. I just find
It's
that
a lot of fun.
because I mean, maybe because we race too fast and we never thought about slowing it down. It's just a family
Well,
like,
it's also might be like it's a lap length too.
yeah,
Like if you have a longer lap, they can get more spread out, so you're not always on top of each other.
yeah. I got a short track, and
So, and like when you bump it up to your next one that's a little bit longer, you may find that like, oh yeah, 6 is fine. But like, yeah, I totally get it. If it was a shorter track and they were all on top of each other all the time, then that would be
well,
not
no,
so
don't
fun.
tell me 6 is fine because then I gotta build 6 call buttons, and I don't want to do that.
You just gotta have them close, because they're not going to be assigned to a driver, right? Anybody can hit the call button. So you
Yeah,
just have 2
but
people standing close to one.
strategically, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put 2 on the basically like no, that's looking at my wall. Uh, 2 on this side, looking at
Yeah.
the track. 1 on the closet door side, the shorter side, and 1 on the opposite end. Because just of the way it's built, because I'm gonna have a little raise.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking even where the shoulder is gonna be, and one of the straight shoulders, I'm gonna cut it out or just not put in that shoulder and install it right there. And then I have to figure out the crash barrier too, to be like, because then you got to hit it in front of the crash barrier. My crash barrier is kind of it's that. it's that gutter protector, and everyone
Oh yeah,
catches
yeah.
their clothes on it. So either I gotta do something or gotta figure out something. But yeah, okay, interesting,
Um,
interesting.
but yeah, I mean, I love six racers, and six racers with two ghost cars was insane.
Oh,
It was insane.
I don't
It was
know.
a blast. But they were going slow. I mean, the cars were going slow, so like everybody, you like it changed the whole thing because then it was like a strategy of when to change lanes rather than like I got to slow down on this corner. It's like, oh yeah, I got to change lanes now so I can get in, get in the right lane. But then, oh crap, they hit another lane change and that ghost car got in front of me now. And I
So
set the ghost cars to even slower than everybody else was going, so that you had to pass them, and then you just don't count the laps, and they just go,
I
and
don't
it
even
just
see how
creates
I don't even see
traffic.
how that's possible because at speed one, I would see that ghost car just stutter. How do you go slower than speed one? That's crazy.
I don't think I was at one. I think it was like in smart races like 14 or
Oh,
21.
okay,
So
okay,
that's
okay.
two or three, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah.
Is that it was whatever speed like I would race at the low, and then turn it up by one, and then turn it up by one, and then turn it up by one, and when it crashed, I turned it back down one.
Okay, makes sense. Makes sense.
And then when you just do the ghost cars, I would just have somebody else get about show me about how fast that car can go, and then it's like, okay, I'm gonna try to get one less, and then you just test it and you let it go, and you see, oh yeah, I can get in front of it pretty easy. And then we had one fast ghost car, one slow ghost car.
So how I put my speaking of okay at that point, your strategy is to cut and to like overtake and whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so I've set my switch lanes. I
Hmm.
got the kit, whatever, but all my switch lanes are set in a way that I'll always grab. And now I understand why Carrera does um, their kit the way they do. It's actually a cut kit. It's if you look at all you get the right curve from left lane to right lane. It's all about
Yeah.
cutting the corners, and then the
Yeah.
left, right, and then you get the. So I get the inside of the hairpin. So with the exception of the double lane changers, which I don't use, I technically go down my straight. I cut the corner. I come in. I grab the inside, so I can grab all the insides of my track. And I sometimes I just practice alone, just trying to do that, just trying to nail the at like
Yeah, that's cool.
as fast as I can go. Sometimes that's just like a game I
It's
play.
like the racing line, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
don't find that the car will go faster. Did you find that actually cutting those lines will makes the car like will bring you ahead to actually cut down the traverse time?
It kind of depends. I mean, I have double and single lane changes, but I have the whatever my starter set did. It has two curved lane change, and they're both right hand turns,
Hmm.
and one is inside out, one is outside to in.
No, but I'm saying if you went around your track now and just hit every switch to gain on the inside curve, which is the smaller, not radius, but the less um, less distance traveled, right? If you take the inside curve,
Yeah.
right, even though in racing you want to take the outside curve because the apex and all that crap, but that doesn't work um, on our races. If you try to cut the lane and try to go the shortest distance, do you find that that actually makes a difference? Or because I find, I'm thinking maybe because of the switch that the car isn't actually gaining anything because it's doing more switching and it's like vibrating more, so you're actually losing speed. I'm trying to figure out. That's another theory. I'm trying to.
See, I prefer the outside lane on almost all of my layouts. I prefer the outside because it's more gradual, so less friction, less
No,
chance
so
to
be it not a
deslide.
problem. But do you think there's actual? If you took one car, have you ever tried it? I guess I would have to just try it. If you took one car, did the outside, took one car, and did all the switches that would gain you that inside
Yeah,
advantage.
I don't have this. I don't have the switches that do that. I don't think mine aren't lined up. My
Oh, whatever. Even if it's like down, if you even if it's in the middle of your straight, if you took the and you had a double straight, switch into the one that gives you the next inside curve. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
it might be easier on mine because all I have is R1s, so it's not like you have like nice S curves and stuff, so it's not like
Yeah.
nice chicanes.
I don't know. I mean, 'cause I find that my cars go faster in the outside, the more gradual
Mm,
radius.
yeah.
Because even like it is less distance on the inside, right? It's less physical distance, but that that radius is so small. There's more friction. There's more friction on that guide. on the smaller radius, especially more abrupt friction, which is a lot of reason why it it deslots on the inside more than it does on the outside.
A lot of things learned tonight, man. A lot of things learned this morning. I mean,
This morning,
yeah.
this Saturday morning. But yeah, I love the safety car. I really do, and I think more people should at least give it a shot. Because it like I said, it just changes the game. It
What
changes.
are your thoughts on the virtual safety car on the
I
smart?
haven't used it, and we talked about that too. I would love to be able to do well. So my thing with the virtual safety car is it would help, like in your case, where you're the only marshal. That would help you because you could set that speed down to the speed that it is not. Um, I guess it helps if there's spots that are hard to get to marshal, because then all the cars can still keep going
Oh yeah, you can hit the hammer and then okay, where's the car? Pick it up.
and then fix the car, and that would give them a penalty for crashing because all the other cars are still moving. Not penalty, but like an incentive to not crash.
Oh, and that would work well with the damage at that point. Or no, because then the cars are going slower in that lap too, and then again that risks them.
Yeah, and I don't know if it adjusts for
I don't know
safety
if it's
car. I don't
smart.
know if it counts.
Smart race is smart enough to know, like, oh no, it's not. It's whoever hit the stop, and then give you damage because you hit the stop. I don't know. I have to look. I have to look a little deeper into that.
The damage is a super cool idea, but like figuring out at what time lap to give damage, that's like that's a fine line and a tricky one.
Yeah, that's why. Unless those things are already incorporated to be like, we recommend that you use the virtual safety car with the damage, which I have a funny feeling I did read that somewhere, or maybe I'm just wishful
It
thinking.
would, I mean,
They'd say
that
use
would
them
make
in tandem
sense.
because that way it don't worry about it. Whoever presses the stop button, we know. Okay, let me check your lap. Yeah, you messed up. Well, everyone else was like, no, but I know that everyone else was still on the track. But again, the CU doesn't know who's on the track and who doesn't. So
Yeah, yeah, and that's yeah. It would be really cool if the damage could just do like it's plus 1 second compared to all the other most recent laps. Instead of saying like my average lap time is whatever it is, 7 seconds, and I went damage when somebody hits 10 seconds. Well, they get marshaled fast enough, they're still going to be under 10 seconds.
well, that's it, right? Like
And if the virtual safety car's out, it might take more than 10 seconds to get around. And I don't know if it ignores it during the safety car. I don't know how any of that.
time to test.
Yeah. And the only time I only tested out damages when I first got Smart Race, when I first set up the track. And there was just so many times where it's like, you have a damage. And I'm like, what? I didn't even do anything. Like, what happened? Like, I'm just racing. What happened? And so then I was just like, I gave up on it. I mean, I was super early onto all of it anyway, so it's probably just like not understanding the settings I was using. But I was just like, yeah, I don't like that because I'm just getting damaged just for like driving. I don't know what happened.
Or he's like,
Like,
I don't like this car. You got damage.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, or just like random, like yo, everybody has damage. I'm like, well, how can we all have damage? We're all racing. Like, what is going on? But that one has always intrigued me. The weather has always intrigued me. I've never used that in a race though. I've used it when I'm goofing around, just to give something. If I'm like by myself doing 100 laps, it's like, oh yeah, put in random weather because then there's something to do during the race to mess with me. But
It's another game
the
mode.
like,
It's another game mode to be like,
yeah,
can I hit my 100 laps under 10 minutes or whatever, right?
yeah.
Let's
I
play that.
just wish there was, and I think people have suggested this too. I wish there was on that driver station app. I wish there was a button to say like, yes, I actually want to change tires instead of like, if you're in there for 10 seconds or whatever it is, then you change tires because then it's like, it just makes really long pit stops. And then, I get that that's the point. But yeah, it's just
Does
a
he set
little,
stops? Because in the fuel setting, you set how long it takes you to fuel up.
yeah, yeah. But you have to fuel. Well, I think last time I used it, you have to fuel first and then it gives you tires if you're still in there.
All right. Yeah.
Because it won't do them both at the same time. I think the same with damage.
Call to change tires. It doesn't know. Okay, switch to change tires. I guess it prioritizes fuel first.
Yeah, I think that's the whole point is so that you can get fuel. If you don't want tires, you can get fuel and you can keep going. Like if you didn't want to switch tires because you thought, it was going to get sunny and not be rainy again.
Yeah, I mean, I think I did like you. I bought the whole package for the year and said, let me see what I use within the year, and then if I
Yeah.
don't use anything, then
And those were the two I tried for a little bit and I was just like, it's cool, but
yeah.
yeah.
Fuels work. The fuel's working for me. The fuel's working for us. I find it's. I think I
Fuel's rad. Yeah. Well, and we've talked back and forth. I was using Carrera fuel because I like the having to press the button.
yeah. See, I don't like that. I like that you can go into the pits and not worry about it. What I don't like about that is that I realize that you can just do a slow pit and the thing will fuel you up regardless and just go out and it's just like gives you just enough of a top off. And at first I didn't like that, but then I realized, well, I'm kind of going into the pits anyways, and you have to slow down. So I'm giving myself that disadvantage, even if it's for that couple of seconds. So it's like strategy versus the trade
It's a
off.
splash and dash.
Yeah, they're just like throwing gas at
Yeah.
my.
Just open up the cap, throw some at it. Let's see what lands in there. Yeah.
Like those carnival games with the you go hit the
With
clown.
a little moving thing. Yeah.
Guys are like go go. Oh man.
But it's I mean, yeah, I have recently on your suggestion switched to using the Smart Race fuel where like as soon
Oh,
as you get into the pit, it's as long as you're going the right speed, it refuels you. And I like that a lot, especially when my daughter races or my nieces come over or when new people come over because explaining to them is like they're like I'm not getting fuel and then it's like well you got to press that button.
yeah.
That's one
And see,
extra thing.
the timing goes. So what I see, so the button thing, right? Some of the issues would be like, guys, don't forget if you get into the pits, whoever's into the pits first, try to be conscious enough to go all the way to the front, which is
Yeah,
hard because you get in, we're always on the hard brake, and then you're pressing, and you're like, well, I don't want to move because as soon as I move, it's going to think I'm out of the pits, and then you lose the button
yeah,
functionality. So now you don't have to worry about that. So now that's helped in that aspect where everyone comes in, and I'm like, just you can creep forward. So everybody does. Like now everyone's like, okay, I can creep forward, and they like that because they're like, well, now I'm closer to the exit, so creep and
yeah.
look, creep and look, creep and look. I'm gone. But there's a hack. You don't have to wait till you hit 100%. If you wait till 90% and you leave the pit, there's a
It keeps.
lag. So it'll feel you'll be 100. And I figured out that trick. Hopefully Jen doesn't watch this video, but that's my little. I'll wait till 98% or 95% and I leave and I just look up and I'm like, boom, I'm at 100. No one's picked up on it yet that I can
Yeah, yeah.
keep doing that. So I'm like, well, and I'm still losing. So I'm like, whatever.
Well, my biggest problem with the not having to press the button is that people would go into the pit and then just be like staring at the screen, waiting for it to start fueling. They're like, "It's not fueling. It's not fueling." It's like, well, yeah, you went in there at full throttle down past the sensor, and it thinks you're back out of the pit. But explaining to them how the sensors work, and it's like, no, you can't go above a quarter throttle, and then it thinks you're out of the pit because there's it's very much like a video game, but it's not a video game. Like it's there has to be limitations to how it works. And then but the way I got around that with now using the Smart Race where it just automatically starts fueling is I have two fuel sensors in my pit.
Mm-hmm.
And on my new one, I'm gonna put three. I'm gonna have the whole thing sensors because as long as you go across one of those sensors, one of the like things that say fuel or whatever, as long as you don't hit a quarter after that, then it counts.
Okay. So okay, because it's the quarter after that.
Hmm.
See, because my thing is, do you count laps when you go into your pit?
No, that's why I always suggest people not to do that because you can do all kinds of crazy things if you're not using that fuel sensor as a pit
So with the
or
smart
as a latch
app,
counter.
the last thing I forgot to check, and I'm going to check it as soon as we get off this live now, is that I believe that as soon as you hit the first pit entry, and it says, "Oh, you're in the pit," that triggers before you even hit the first sensor. So if you're fueling, unless you've experienced something different, if you've experienced that the car will start fueling up before the sensor, what I would probably do is take that because mine sets the lap. So I'll probably take that sensor and move it forward, because what happens is people come in, and I think sometimes the cars might get a little squirrely, so it'll come in and it might not hit the lap count. So if if
And
it's
maybe I don't even need them in there. Maybe it's not doing anything. It's just a mental thing.
no, but it is doing something like you said. It's triggering the. At what point is it counting the? So I might, for that reason, I might just put it at the end.
And it doesn't help the like the starting and stopping. Like if you go in there and you stop past one, once you go a quarter past that, it doesn't matter.
Hmm.
So I'm not sure. I don't know if it's doing anything or not, but it feels good like it is.
No,
It's also a visual marker for new people. That's like just stop on that thing or just past that thing and you're fine. And on the new layout, it's gonna have three separate things within it.
I think, dude, I think that's insane. I think that's crazy.
It's
That's
gonna
so.
be rad. It's either gonna be really cool or really awful.
um, I'm looking at mine, and right now my fuel, you have to switch right before a curve because I don't have enough space to get in, so I don't have the oops, the oops to go into the pit,
Yeah.
the right to left, no, left to right. Um, in my new layout, I will have that space, but the problem is I only have that extra two, and what I want to do is extend the pit even longer. And
Yeah.
I might want to do Mastercraft. What's his name? Crafty. You know his videos.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
He did the pit lane.
Slotcraft Master.
Oh yeah, that guy. I'm sorry, man. If you're watching this, I'm sorry I messed up your name. He does a really cool pit lane, like where it splits, where you take the shorter curves, cuts them in two. Have you seen his?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so.
Yeah. I've seen them and I've thought about them, and I got a little bit different way that I'm gonna do mine. Because I'm gonna do the switch, and then the pit lane's gonna go straight, but the main track is gonna bump out and then bump back in. But my pit lane's gonna be really long,
Yeah.
like really long, like way longer than it should be. Which is why I need to add a whole nother table on the end, and why my wife is probably gonna be like, what are you doing?
What? Well, isn't she out now? Shouldn't you go get that table now while she's not in?
Yeah, I should be working on it right now while they're at the pool. I should be doing it right now, but
Um,
nope. I got a 6 a.m. flight tomorrow, so I better not start any projects.
yeah.
Although that is how I do things. I like
Yeah.
to start them right before I leave and then leave them undone for a week while I'm gone.
Well, when you get back, you know exactly what you're working on.
Yeah.
That's
Now I'm back for 2 days and then I'm gone for 12.
Oh man, what am
So
I gonna do
yeah,
without Pete? I have to talk
20,
you on the Discord.
22 or 20, 20 out of the next 22 days I'm on the road.
That's crazy.
It's a long one. But speaking of, and we're pretty close to wrapping it up. We're right about an hour, maybe a little longer. Well, I don't know.
Yeah,
But we 2 weeks from now, right? Well, not this weekend. For everybody watching, it's 2 weeks from today. Um, so next weekend is Father's Day.
mm-hmm.
We're not doing one. We do every other week.
Mm-hmm.
2 weekends after that, I will be on the road, but I'll be back in Milwaukee at my dad's house.
Get out. That'd be awesome.
So I'll be up there for the weekend. So as long as we don't get too boozy crazy on that Friday night, I'll try to talk him into doing another show down in his basement so we can talk about the track again or race or whatever. I don't know.
Oh, I'd
We'll have
love to
fun,
see you guys
but
race. You guys didn't do that last time. I mean, you did.
yeah,
But
well, I think while I'm there, I'm either going to record just a regular old episode, just because I'm there, and the wife and kid are not coming. My mom's going to be down here in St. Louis, so it'll just be the two of us up there, doing bachelor weekend.
boys,
Yeah, and so
nice.
it's a great opportunity to record a video when there's nobody saying like, "Hey, we need to go to dinner and do all this." It's like, nah, we're drinking beers and racing and doing that. So hopefully I'm going to do that. But at the very least, I want either like Friday night or Saturday night just to do a live with the two of us racing because it gets rowdy, gets out of hand.
Is Milwaukee closer to me? I'm bad with geography.
It is, yeah. Well,
Maybe I'll meet
yeah,
you there.
probably. It's not close.
It's not close.
It's not close, but it's closer, I think. It's further north, but actually probably not unless you took the ferry across Lake Michigan.
Oh, okay. I gotta go west. I gotta go west and down then. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so it's probably not actually closer, but well,
Uh,
yeah, man, this was fun. I think it worked out. We'll find out when everybody watches it. Leave some comments. But yeah, we wanted to keep the spot. We think we have a good rhythm going every 2 weeks and doing the show on a regular basis. We wanted to keep the time slot, make sure you guys knew that we were still going, but neither one of us were available. So we're gonna try this. If it works, great. If it doesn't, we'll figure something else out.
Hopefully, seeing as this is going to be in the future, hopefully I had a chance to pop in and say hello from where I'm at, and that'll be that. We'll see.
Yeah, I won't.
No.
But I'll talk to you guys next week. I'll be on the Discord while I'm out of town, just not while I'm up in the mountains. So I'll see you guys all there. But yeah, thanks so much for bearing with us on this pre-recorded episode. But I think it was fun. It worked. You got a little peek in between, peek in between, a peek behind the curtains. This is how Joe and I's video calls conversations go throughout the week on a normal basis. We talk about nonsense and get on tangents and go all over the place. So
Yeah, man.
I appreciate everybody.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Bye, guys.